Are you Matthew Aldridge?
I'm the attorney of fact for Matthew Aldridge.
You were what?
The attorney of fact.
Attorney what?
Of fact.
Attorney of fact. And what does that mean?
You know, his authorization to do legal representation.
Are you a licensed attorney?
No, I'm simply an attorney of fact.
Okay. And does that mean you have a power of attorney? What is your name? What is your name?
Today's courtroom hearing takes a bizarre turn almost immediately. The court documents identify the defendant as Matthew Aldridge, but when he steps up to the podium, he refuses to acknowledge that name and instead claims he doesn't have a legal name at all. He also describes himself as an attorney in fact, a term that is commonly associated with someone acting under a power of attorney and does not, by itself, authorize a person to practice law or avoid court proceedings. As the hearing continues, he begins making arguments often associated with sovereign citizen theories, insisting that the court has no authority over him. The judge, however, isn't persuaded by those claims and repeatedly explains that the court has jurisdiction to hear the case under the applicable law. The exchange becomes more intense as the hearing goes on, with the judge calmly addressing each argument while refusing to let the proceedings get sidetracked. By the end, the judge effectively dismantles the defendant's position and brings the discussion back to the actual legal issues before the court. Let's jump into the hearing and watch how the entire exchange unfolds.
My name?
Yes, sir.
I don't have.
You don't have a name? Pardon?
I'm the attorney of fact for the respondent in the hearing.
Well, let me explain to you. Only an attorney at law can stand in court and represent a criminal defendant. And to do so otherwise violates the criminal law statutes of the state of Tennessee and could land someone who attempts to represent themselves as an attorney at law in serious trouble. I understand what you're saying. I understand you're saying an attorney in fact. And what I want you to understand is that if you have a power of attorney, then you need to demonstrate that power of attorney. Do you have a legal document called a power of attorney?
No, I do not this time.
Okay. Then you don't have any authority to act on behalf of Matthew Aldridge in this court. You have no legal authority, nor do you have any authority through a legal document to represent or to act on behalf of Matthew Aldridge.
Why don't the court just let me file this document?
Show it to the bailiff and he'll show it to me. Apparently there's a copy here.
What really caught my attention here was the way he tried to support his argument. After introducing himself as an attorney in fact, he handed the judge a document that he appeared to believe would validate his position. It wasn't shown very clearly on screen, but from the discussion in the hearing, he seemed to be relying on a legal theory that he believed allowed him to speak on behalf of Matthew Aldridge. In reality, representing someone in court is governed by established legal rules. Licensed attorneys are authorized to practice law after meeting state requirements, and while an attorney in fact can act under a valid power of attorney in certain situations, that role does not automatically allow someone to appear in court as legal counsel or avoid the normal legal process. Like many hearings involving sovereign citizen-style arguments, the discussion quickly shifted to jurisdiction. He repeatedly suggested that the court lacked authority over him, but simply making that claim doesn't determine whether a court has jurisdiction. Those questions are decided according to the law, not by a person's personal declaration. The judge doesn't spend much time entertaining those arguments and instead keeps steering the hearing back to the issues that actually matter. It's a familiar pattern in cases like this, where the court focuses on the applicable law rather than unsupported legal theories. One thing I've noticed is that these types of hearings seem to appear more often online than they used to. Maybe that's because more of them are being recorded and shared, or perhaps they're simply attracting more attention. Either way, they always lead to some unusual courtroom exchanges. Let me know what you think in the comments, and with that, let's get back to the hearing and see what happens next.
All right. Well, I find that Matthew Neal Aldridge has failed to appear personally in this court for the plea day on his case, which is set for trial tomorrow. And as a result, you have no standing, sir, under the what I know what you're trying to do is to try to use the sovereign citizen approach to this situation. And I'm simply telling you that you do not have the right to represent Matthew Neal Aldridge. If you are in fact Matthew Neal Aldridge, then you need to say so and stop this nonsense, because that what you're attempting to do has no legal effect. You cannot challenge the criminal law or the jurisdiction of this court by simply filing some legal mumbo jumbo having to do with civil litigation. That has civil litigation in it. It is not a criminal case that you have cited. So it has no effect on this court regarding the criminal statutes of this court. This court is empowered under the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the state of Tennessee, and by the duly elected citizens of Cheatham County to empower and enforce the laws of the state of Tennessee. And that is what I'm going to do regarding Matthew Lynn Aldridge. Mr. Aldridge is set for today to appear in court personally on what we call our last plea day before his trial date tomorrow.
Is that an article pre-trial?
To what?
Will that be an article pre-trial? A trial by jury with jury?
It would be a trial by jury, certainly it would be. But I don't know who you are. And I don't think you have any authority if you are not Matthew Lynn Aldridge to appear before this court. And you're wasting valuable time to all of these other citizens who are here today. So when I'm talking, you stop talking. No, you will when I'm finished talking. You are wasting the court's time by doing this, and I'm just simply instructing you that if you are in fact Matthew Lynn Aldridge, then this is your last day to settle your case. The trial date is set for tomorrow, and unfortunately it will not go forward because of the fact that I have a conflict and I have to be in Stewart County on a civil matter. So we're going to assign a new trial date for Matthew Lynn Aldridge. All right. To Matthew Aldridge and the individual standing before me whose name must not be uttered.
As the hearing continues, the judge handles this hearing with a remarkable amount of composure. No matter what argument the defendant tries to introduce, the judge responds calmly and methodically, addressing each point without letting the proceedings get sidetracked. It doesn't take long before the defendant's attorney-in-fact argument is thoroughly rejected. It almost seems as though the judge has encountered these kinds of claims many times before. Rather than getting drawn into a debate over unsupported legal theories, he simply explains why the arguments don't apply and keeps the case moving forward. One moment that stood out was when the judge joked about the defendant refusing to say his own name. Judges often maintain a very reserved demeanor during hearings, so that brief moment of humor was unexpected and added a little personality to an otherwise tense exchange. From the very beginning, it was obvious that the judge wasn't going to let the hearing turn into a platform for arguments that had no bearing on the legal issues before the court. He stayed focused on the law and refused to let the discussion drift away from the actual case. In the end, this hearing serves as another example of how courtroom tactics based on unsupported legal theories rarely change the outcome. The court continues to apply the law as written, regardless of the claims being presented, and the proceedings move forward accordingly.
Then we will set a July 15th trial date for Mr. Aldridge. Whatever this document is that you have filed is in fact invalid because it does not cite any valid criminal statute, and therefore I'm denying whatever that might be in the way of a motion. The trial date will be July 15th. The last day for Mr. Aldridge to enter a plea or go to trial will be July the 8th. July the 8th. Now, we're going to give you a card. If you are in fact Matthew Aldridge and you're just playing games with the court regarding this nonsense that you filed, then you may get this card and you may go on about your business. If you are not Matthew Aldridge, then I would suggest to you, you relay to Mr. Aldridge that he must appear on July the 8th, or a bond revocation will take place, and his case will be will take place with him in jail, incarcerated on the 15th. That's the judgment of the court. You need to take your piece of paper and go on about your business.
Cases involving sovereign citizen arguments are always some of the most unusual courtroom hearings to watch. People who adopt these beliefs often argue that government authority doesn't apply to them or that they can avoid legal obligations by relying on their own interpretation of the law. During these hearings, it's common to hear references to concepts like common law or the Uniform Commercial Code, UCC, but those references are frequently used in ways that courts have consistently rejected. In reality, courts apply the laws that govern their jurisdiction, including federal, state, and local law where appropriate. Those legal frameworks are established through constitutions, statutes, regulations, and judicial precedent. A person can't simply declare that those laws no longer apply to them because they disagree with the legal system. As a result, hearings based on these kinds of arguments often follow a familiar pattern. The court listens to the claims, explains why they don't have legal support, and then continues with the case. Questions of jurisdiction are determined by law, not by whether a party accepts the court's authority. Using these arguments to challenge criminal charges, traffic citations, or tax obligations has repeatedly been unsuccessful in court. In some situations, refusing to follow court procedures or repeatedly raising arguments that have already been rejected can lead to additional legal consequences, depending on the circumstances and the court's authority to manage its proceedings. It's understandable to wonder why these theories continue to appear despite their long history of being rejected by the courts. Some people may genuinely believe they're relying on valid legal principles, while others may see it as a way to challenge the system. Whatever the motivation, these courtroom exchanges often end with the legal process moving forward under established law rather than the theories being presented. That wraps up today's breakdown. If you